Hey, sixth graders, happy Monday. We are in our final week of trimester one. So this is your first trimester in middle school, and it's coming to an end. So we've seen how this goes. And for some of you, went awesome. For some of you, not so awesome. But it's a reset. So I will push for all of you to really bust a move this week, because if you finish strong, that leads into trimester two. If you kind of give up and say, oh, that was a disaster, it's what's going to happen. It's going to be a really hard climb to start fresh. You don't just flip the switch and suddenly things are different. At least most people don't. Some people do, but it's not worth risking the rest of the week. So anyway, really look at your work and let's get that work in, especially our write like an author. That did not go well for this class. We're only at 50% turn in. That's not good. Okay, today we're going to do some more figurative language, and then you need some practice time. So bottom line is, I do want to address this right here. This is bothersome to me. So this was our assignment that was due last Monday. You had 4 days to work on it. And I want you to look at that. That's missing, 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 missing. We can't do that, people. I mean, I understand the holidays were there, but you didn't stop going to school. I mean, school is your job right now. It's what you're supposed to do while your parents are doing their thing, or your the people, the adults, the guardians, everyone that's an adult in your life, they're working on their stuff. Your job is to do this, okay? Because you're building up routine, you're building up learning, you're trying to soak things up like a sponge. And if you don't do it, then you're just like passing time. And that's going to be means like people are moving up while you stay the same. You stay the same. So that gap, that goes with everyone if you don't stay on this. So we got to change some of the behaviors that I'm seeing. And I know it's hard. I know it is. But that's why we're here. This isn't just me telling you what to do. It's saying, hey, here's what we should do. I'm here to help. That's what we got to do. All right. So I'm going to go through this quick. This was your work from Friday, or I'm sorry, last Tuesday. Metaphors. Remember, to remind you what metaphors is: a direct comparison. Okay. And in this little short story I wrote, I made a lot of comparisons. So here, this is what you should be thinking about. In this story, I compared peas to Mount Everest. I compared peas to blue jays chirping insults. I compared peas to a thousand pound weight pulling down. I compared peas to green buckshot, which, if you looked up, is the stuff you shoot out of shotgun shells. I compared a fork to a four-pronged sword. That means I'm kind of a knight. The speaker or the narrator was basically comparing themselves to a Greek god battling titans. And the peas also, then we're back to comparing it to a green army and then a green pebble dragon. So this was what you should have had in your work for Tuesday. All right, on to the similes. Again, in this little story, I compared a faucet to a teary viewer of a sad movie. Brown water was compared to leftover, muddy, soggy thunderstorm. Factories compared to aunts and uncles packing up. Specks in water was compared to glitter on a child's birthday invitation. Bin, our main character, was compared to a heavy animal resting after labor, just like, right? Weights of choices is compared to a slow tidal wave. So there's similes all throughout. And lastly, this is the one I really looked at. This is the story of Su Min, who's the explain what it's being compared to. The whole thing is one big old metaphor that is describing Su Min's experience, not Su Min. Su Min is not being compared to glass. She is being compared to her experience of what it's like to stand in front of people. That nervousness is being compared to maybe a wall of glass being shattered and coming at her and slicing her. So I was looking for an explanation that really looked at, like, this is what's going on here. This whole paragraph is one large metaphor that the feeling of speaking in front of people is like a wall of shattered glass coming at you. Okay. The whole thing, look at all these details. The clink and the crash is like the stairs, the slicing. She has armor, but the shards would cut through that. That's like, I mean, this whole paragraph is one metaphor that's being carried out and explained. Okay, so today we're moving on to alliteration. What is it? So let me give you an example, and then you tell me what you think it is. Perry picked a pack of pickled peppers in Peru while prancing through a prairie. Always ask an aardvark about apples and anchovies on any avocado. Swimming is more magnificent on many summer Mondays from mid-morning to 2 p.m. So basically, here's what you're going to do today. These are your notes, but don't take them yet. This is alliteration. It is the repetition of the same sound at the beginning of two or more words in a phrase. Now, you'll notice right here, you might say, oh, Mr. Slaby, the S isn't completely isn't the sound, it's the M sound. So it's not always the first word either. So M is the repeated sound. In fact, not only at the beginning, but also in the middle. Ooh, that's high level stuff. But that's what alliteration is. It's a repetition. Now, here's the thing. You might say, Mr. Wait, we care. Who matters? Why does it matter? Whatever, who cares? Here's the thing. Alliteration is really good at helping with catchy phrasing. So it's easy to remember something that is alliterative. So, when people say like Sally sells seashells by the seashore, people remember that phrase because of the alliteration, the repeated of the S sound. It's catchy. That's if you look at some of the slogans in history for advertising, some of them are using alliteration because it's easy to remember. All right. It establishes a silly mood. If you want to establish a story that's kind of lighthearted, like that's kind of goofy, alliteration helps to almost build that. It takes the edge off, usually, sometimes not, but it sort of associated with, if I have alliteration, I have kind of a loosey-goosey sort of silly story. It sounds cool. It's all about audio, right? So alliteration sounds cool. And it actually requires vocabulary. You can't do alliteration unless you know enough words. Otherwise, you're searching in a thesaurus or a dictionary, and that's a lot of work. So if you have a good, strong vocabulary, alliteration is really easy. So if you want to know like how the experts use it, this is from Seed Folks, right? Boom, on page 14. I picked up the pitcher and poured the water. So usually you see it in poetry, but you also see it in writing that's just novel writing too. Here's one from page 18. He would only buy the food at the bodega down the block. On page 19, next page, I led him home holding his hand. So if you think about that's 5 pages, 3 examples of alliteration. Chances are it's throughout the book. All right, so today in your work, so this is our work today. I have a document here, right here. So if you click on this, that's what this is. And it's basically an acronym, I shampoo. Everyone say that together, I shampoo. And this is actually officially the team decided this is how we're going to take our notes. So those of you that did the notebook for me on Tuesday, I want you to shift over to this document so that we're going to focus on these 8 examples of figurative language, okay? And so we should have simile and metaphor already done, and then today is alliteration. If you think about it, that's what you could write. So you could go back and say the repetition of the same sound at the beginning. You could also shorten that. I might be able to make it the repetition of same sounds at the beginning of words or at beginning of words. So you just got to have the definition. You do need an example. You got to see it. And I've given you a bunch here, right? There's an example. There's an example. You could borrow those or you can create your own. And then illustration, notice it's optional. If you really want to know it, that's where you really, really, really understand it. And I want to make sure that you do this. Don't write anything down until you know what you're writing. So if you go back here and you just copy this, do you know it? Or are you just copying? That's a really important question, okay? All right, so here's your work for today. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 phrases that I want you to turn into more interesting phrases through alliteration. I mean, that goes back to here. It sounds cool. It's catchy. We're going to make this more interesting. All right. The whole point of this, though, is to make a continuation of at least 3 sounds, at least 3. The more, the better. All right. So these are very simple phrases. Mr. Slaby's a bad teacher. Mushrooms are the worst vegetable. COVID-19 is bad. Pizza is great. Quarantine stinks. Racism should end. Now, I gave you a little hint here because I gave you the yellow highlight. That's what I want you to like. For these, you don't have to, but that would be a good place to start for which sound to repeat. For like pizza is great. I don't care what you do. I don't think those are great words. I mean, you could use the G, you could use P, but you get to pick which word you want to focus on, okay? Valley middle is the best. It's the same thing. So what I'm saying here is that you could go with best and say ba 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 ba, or you could just get rid of best and say Valley Middle is the school of supreme sorcery, whatever. You could change the word for this one and this one. Okay, now let's see an example. Let's do them together. If I take Mr. Slaby as a bad teacher, I highlighted the T, right? If you turn this into a phrase that included alliteration, it might be something like this. Mr. Slaby is a terrible tyrant teacher. I got T, T, and I even threw another one in there, T, T. Now, again, you have to have vocabulary, right? I know the word tyrant. It's a good word. If you don't know that word, then you're limited. So vocabulary is important. But let's go next level on this. Mr. Slaby is a terrible, cantankerous, ooh, great word, I threw the T in there, tyrant of a teacher who tortures teens in a constant tantrum. Now I'm talking. Like, this is really good. This is fun. It was fun to write. So this is good enough. This is better. Okay. So what I want you to do today is go through, and in this assignment for today, I want you to have your notes finished, right? And I also want you to go through and I want you to take these phrases and make them more interesting. Now, you can write in a notebook and take a picture and submit it here, or you can actually write it on this assignment and just submit it, which would mean you would create that little plus sign in your iPad and then do create a submission. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to give you this basic daily work scale. If I think you put good effort and it's clear and you show that you understand it, you get a 3. If your effort is great, but it looks like you kind of understand it and looks like you need some work, I'll give you 2.5. If I think your effort could be stronger and your practice shows that you only understand this, then I'm going to give you a 2. And honestly, if you just turn this in with like just a bunch of like, you really didn't think about the lesson, I'm going to give you a 1. That's 33%. That's not good. So any questions, let me know. I'm here. Let's go. You guys are awesome. Let's bust a move this last week. And the last thing I'm going to say is this. Get this done, okay? Get your work in. Remember, this is what I'm looking at right now. Get your work in. All right, let's go.